Hello and welcome to the Universe 82M. This is my North Western Railway Fleet Character series. In this episode, we're going to look at North Western Railway's number 39, Jerry. Jerry is a Great Eastern Railway J67-060 tank engine, otherwise known as Buck Jumper, who was built at Stratford in 1904. Despite its size, Jerry and his siblings were remarkably speedy, which saw them working suburban passenger services from London to the depths of East Anglia. Jerry, however, would have a varied working life. In 1910, Jerry was transferred to a Wisbech and Upwell tramway to assist with the goods work, more specifically the milk trains, due to his speed. It would be here where the Buck Jumper would first meet Toby. The two engines got on very well, and Toby became somewhat of a mentor to the young tank engine. However, in 1915, Toby was replaced into storage as he was in need of an overhaul, but due to the ongoing war, his overhaul was deemed an unnecessary expense, and as such, Jerry had to take up a lot of the stress before the new J70s arrived on the tramway. However, when the new engines did arrive, they took a disliking towards Buck Jumper. Eventually, Jerry would be transferred to work as a station pilot at London Liverpool Street for the next 8 years. His time as a station pilot was the most miserable experience that Jerry had ever had up until that point. In 1923, Jerry would become an engine of the London and North Eastern Railway, and his beloved Great Eastern Railway livery would be taken away from him and replaced with a dull NWR black. Jerry hated this livery, as he now didn't stand out and just looked like most of the other small tank engines. But he couldn't complain, he was still useful after all. In 1925, Jerry was transferred north to York as they needed a new yard shunt up shed complex there. At first, the move was unsettling for the tank engine, as he was now separated from his siblings, but he soon began to enjoy life in Yorkshire at the sheds. Jerry would remain at York sheds until nationalisation. When the railways became nationalised, Jerry was now in need of a major overhaul, which he received and resumed shunting duties around the shed complex, and would do so until 1956 when he was replaced by a new diesel, which would see him be placed into a shed at the back of the complex for storage. When Jerry was shunted into the shed, he was surprised to discover a trio of Gresley 61-foot 6-inch teak bogie coaches in the NWR livery. Jerry fell in love with the coaches and vowed that if he was ever to be saved preservation, that the coaches, whose names were Lucy, Linda and Lizzie, would come with him as his own personal coaches. Jerry and his newfound coaches would remain in that shed, forgotten to the world, for almost 20 years. However, in 1973, the shed in which Jerry and the coaches were stabled in was scheduled for demolition. A new apprentice at the sheds came in to inspect the old building and was shocked to find Jerry and the 3 ex-NWR teaks sitting there. The Buck Jumper was worried that the apprentice would send him for scrap, but to his surprise and relief, this would not be the case. The apprentice was intrigued by the unusual tank engine, as it was nothing like what he had seen growing up as a boy. After speaking with Jerry about his life and where he originally came from, the young apprentice grew rather fond of the little Buck Jumper, and arranged for him to be moved to a different shed along with the coaches. However, the shed foreman was not happy to see one of his staff using the shed road for an outdated kettle and 3 barns on wheels. As such, the apprentice was ordered to find alternative storage facilities for the tank engine and coaches, as well as a new employer. Fortunately for Jerry and the young apprentice, a temporary storage solution would be found locally to the sheds at York, in the form of the National Railway Museum. Jerry, Lucy, Linda and Lizzie were taken over to the museum and placed onto a siding outside the main sheds of the museum, while the apprentice and Mr. Peregrine Percival began searching for work. Over and beyond the Sodor, the Scarborough Railway was in need of a new controller, following the passing of Mr. Peter Sam, who passed away earlier that year. The news would reach the Topham Hatt while he was on a business trip in York, where he had planned to meet with the staff of the National Railway Museum to discuss the loan of North Western Railway's No. 1 for a big event that was happening in 1975. While at the museum, the Fat Controller would come across Jerry sitting outside the main building with his 3 coaches. This would also be where he saw Mr. Percival tending to the box jumper and the coaches. Curiosity overtook the stout gentleman, and he approached the young man and the little tank engine. After a long discussion with Mr. Percival and Jerry, and learning of the life Jerry had lived, the Fat Controller offered Mr. Percival the opportunity to become the controller of the SKR. Mr. Percival agreed to this, on the condition that Jerry and his coaches be taken on by the North Western Railway and restored to running order, and that Jerry be repainted into his original Great Eastern Railway colours. The Fat Controller agreed and arranged for Jeff to bring Jerry, Lucy, Linda and Lizzie, along with Mr. Percival, back to Sodor, where Jerry would receive a complete restoration and repaint back into his original Great Eastern colours before becoming the North Western Railway's 39th locomotive in October of 1973. I hope you like my take on Jerry, and I shall see you in the next video. Feel free to voice your opinions in the comments below, and please like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. See you next time.